With the Industrial Revolution, we did lose jobs and we created more jobs. So let's talk about that. Can you tell us about the jobs that are going to be more relevant? And what do you think, since we're not sure, I guess we'll talk about what kind of jobs are going to be created in the future.
Yes. Well, what we're referring to is what they call the fourth industrial revolution. So, and it's probably more appropriate if people want to understand what that is to simply Google it and they'll get a very detailed Wikipedia type of explanation. But assuming that we know what the fourth industrial revolution is, which includes developments in previously disjointed fields such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, robotics, nanotechnology, 3D printing, genetics, and biotechnology. This industrial revolution will cause widespread disruption, not only to business models, but also to labour markets in the future, with enormous change predicted in the skill sets needed to thrive in this new landscape. Education delivery in the future will be a quantum leap from the traditional reading, writing, and arithmetic known as the 3 R's. Today, it's becoming clear that we're teaching our children skills that will not position them to get the jobs of the future. The future workforce must expand their minds to envision what can be done when technology and nature are no longer separate and whole new categories of diversity become commonplace. So I'm talking about STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM is important because it pervades every part of our lives. Science is everywhere in the world around us. Technology is continuously expanding into every aspect of our lives. So people who send their children to universities to become a lawyer, well, guess what? We don't need any more lawyers. And in countries like Australia, and people who've graduated with a law degree now are basically working as administration assistants. It's just a skill that is not really sought after. So we need to encourage not only the government to design programs to get children into the science and mathematics and so forth areas, but we also need, in our universities and also in our workplaces, we need to be encouraging people to upskill and so forth. So most people think that STEM means technology and coding. This is one part of the larger picture, obviously, but science encompasses our world and includes environmental science, marine science, chemical, physical, and earth and space sciences as well. For example, in a traditional classroom, students might be asked to research ways to stop litter going down a stormwater drain. They present a poster, infographic, whatever, to the class explaining what they consider to be the best solution. In a STEM classroom, students will be asked to design, build, test, and redesign, if necessary, a solution to the problem of litter going down a stormwater drain. STEM learning requires critical thinking, engaging, and relevant learning experiences and perseverance. This is the way the world is heading, and if the Philippines wants to stay ahead of the curve, then as a matter of urgency, it needs to change the curriculum away from the 3 R's to STEM subjects.
Yeah, and the Philippines just went through a change recently. It went from a K-10 program to a K-12 program for those in high school. And I guess you can say that that's a stepping stone towards the change that you're talking about.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. I'm delighted.
Yeah, and well, you mentioned that with the rise of AI or artificial intelligence and how it's going to disrupt everything, like with the current workforce and everything, do you think outsourcing will still be relevant in the Philippines and everywhere else, since computers work well everywhere in the world? So, yeah, will it still be relevant?
Sure. Well, look, earlier this year, Google, which I'm sure most listeners would be familiar with, unveiled their program called Duplex, which is an artificial intelligence personal assistant with convincingly human speech patterns, capable of calling shops and restaurants on behalf of its users. While the tech company's focus has been on how Duplex can make life easier for customers, recent reports suggest that Google is also looking into ways so that the system can be leveraged on the other side of the phone line. it would appear that Google has taken an interest in using duplex to replace human workers at call centers. Google is in a conversation with an unnamed large insurance company to integrate the controversial and conversational artificial intelligence into handling customer service calls. So, and on that same note, just in terms of the sort of jobs that, as you touched on, will be lost, saved, or created, people per hour, the online freelance market, estimates that self-employment in the UK and the US is currently growing at an average rate of more than 3% per annum. So based on official labour market statistics, people per hour predict self-employment will grow at an annual rate of 3.5% over the next 5 years in the UK and 3.2% in the US. This would mean that 1 in 2 people in both countries would be working as freelancers by 2020. In Australia, that number is predicted to be 5 million people out of a population of 25 million by 2020. In the US, the Freelancers Union suggests that as many as a third of these working Americans are already self-employed. That's around 56 million people already working as freelancers. So these people will compete in the global market against the people in the Philippines and India and all these other developing nations that are thinking about being in the BPO space. So we're already seeing freelance work in organizations like Uber, or in the Philippines, Grab, the taxi people. And there's platforms like Elance and freelancer.com that are fostering and encouraging people to work for themselves. This is more than people just having a side hustle. It's a complete paradigm shift from the way we think about work today. So that's another competitive stressor that's going to impact on the Philippines. So if work was going to the Philippines because it was less expensive, but yes, they were speaking English and they were university trained people, they're now having to compete against freelancers from all over the world, not only from third world countries, but also from first world countries. So that's why it's even more imperative that to stay ahead of the curve, that the Philippines organises itself and its education programs around STEM products and services.
Well, with all these changes that are bound to happen around the world, how do you think that will affect the Western countries? I mean, do you think that not only the Philippines will be affected by AI and how the globalization, or how everything is becoming smaller, or the world is becoming smaller with technology? So do you think
Sure.
what are the effects on it with Australia, US, and the UK?
Okay, well, just looking at not one specific country, but looking at how organisations will operate within those types of environments. So achieving the diversity required to amplify organisations means tapping into multiple intelligences, work styles, skills, media choices and geographies. The products of collective intelligence are successful because each person makes contributions in the area she or he chooses and in the manner that suits them best. For an organisation to amplify itself, it must tap into the external network of non-employees and entice them to contribute in areas of their expertise. Think crowdsourcing, which I think a lot of your listeners would be familiar with. But it also means that the Philippines will be part of project teams that may exist in another country, but they may be a part of, even though they're still in the Philippines. So beyond hiring, the goal must be to attract, engage and connect amplified individuals into an organisation. So when I'm talking amplified, I'm talking people who've got, social media networks and fans and joiners and so forth, and connections. And so these amplified individuals will come into organisations so that they view it as the most important and powerful node in their highly networked and distributed career paths. Organisations need to think in ways that suit these individuals rather than traditional promotions and compensation packages. Increased freedom, ability to choose particular projects, ability to publish outside of the framework that they're working in is going to be important to individuals. So we spoke when we chatted the other day about in the future, currently work goes to, people go to where the work is. But in our future, our very near future, work will go to where the skills are. And these people will be sitting outside of a traditional organisation. So, but look, one of the other things that we're going to need to develop is skills in and training in visual literacy. Organisations and individuals will have to use new types of highly sensory-rich interfaces, artistic visualizations, simulations, and ambient and other interfaces utilising sound, movement, colours, etc., to take advantage of the massive amounts of data flooding the workplace. The next generation of workers will need to process visual literacy and have the ability to present, analyse, and interact with visual information. Visual acumen is a survival skill for the future workplace. Younger workers who have grown up in the world of video games and virtual reality will naturally be more adept